Anyone there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good morning, people. If there are any such things as people. Well, we're on about the same thing over and over and over again. Based on what they call in Hinduism as Advaita, based on that. Advaita meaning non-duality. To try and describe non-duality, they're saying it's one without a second. But I'm not about Advaita, because like I would say, it's not only that, lots of mothers know Advaita as it's put in it better than what I will ever do. But there is the truth in that that's being recognised here, as it is in Buddhism, as it is in Christianity, as it is in the Muslims, and Hebrews, Jewish, in all the great, back to the Taoists and even before that, in all the great traditions, they point to the same thing. The which is no thing. They call it non-duality, not two. And it comes down to that common denominator, what they call God. And that's where we start getting into problems, into trouble. Because God has set up something superior and higher than, greater than us. But if it's one without a second, and its simplicity, don't you realise that everything is already that and can only be that? And it shows the amazing wonderment of this thing you call God, that it can express pattern, shape and form in all this wondrous variety and diversity of things. Yet it's never left its oneness. It can't, because that is all there is. And they call this a phenomenal manifestation. And the definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. It's all appearance. And the appearance seems very real, very solid and very substantial. Who they appear solid and substantial and real to an appearance. No, it's quite easy to get locked into when it's taken without understanding. And then we put this mystical concept on it. Well, this is mysterious, it's mystic. And the other saying it's plain, fresh, non-dual, ever-fresh presence awareness. It's just this. Nothing mystical about it. And it's only the thoughts, concepts and ideas which wouldn't even be able to express if it wasn't for this innate intelligence, energy that's expressing through them. That's the term I use, intelligence, energy, rather than using the term God. Because everyone will have a concept about God. All the different traditions will have a concept of what they believe God to be. And we get lost in the concepts, not recognising it is the one essence, appearing, patterning, shaping, forming, experiencing and expressing as everything. So there's no, we call it a higher power or a greater power or a superior power. But if it's only one, it's, as they say in Christianity, it's omnipresence, it's total presence. Its omnipotence is total power. And omniscience, total intelligence. Not three separate things, but the three aspects of the one. Just the same as it expresses in the manifestation as steam, water and ice. Steam is a couple of elements. When it solidifies a little bit, it becomes water. And when that water solidifies a bit more, it becomes ice. And you see the same thing with this body: thought, feeling and emotion. Thought's very, very subtle. And then it causes a sensation in the body. A sensation comes up when the thoughts are going on, which, if they're unhappy thoughts or sad thoughts or joyous thoughts, whichever way the thoughts be, are called sensations. And those sensations, another word for sensations, are the feelings. And the feelings solidified a bit more, become the emotions. The anger, the self-pity, the resentment, the unhappiness, the jealousy, the envy, the love, the joy, in all the ways it expresses. And how would we know any of these things were there? It's the labels we put on them. All the labels, all the words. And we tells you in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. This God we talk about is just the Word. All things were made by Him, by the Word. So it's the Word making the Word. Nothing was made that was made. So, when did you begin? You'll say, I was born. But can you remember your birth? And you realise, no, I can't remember my birth. Why? Can't you remember your birth? Purely and simply because you had no words to remember it by. And for the first couple of years of your life, you had no words. What could you say about anything? But you were learning words then. You were learning words from your parents who had learnt words from theirs, and so on, so on. Way back from who knows when the sounds emanated through the pattern, and sounds with the reasoning, capacity of reasoning and the intelligence energy in it. Later on formed concepts, words, ideas. And it had to have a pattern to express through. So in its totality, it can't say anything about it. It is the Absolute. And what can you say about the Absolute, or what can the Absolute say about itself? Nothing. So, in that absoluteness, it vibrates into different pattern, shapes and forms. All that intelligence energy. And the intelligence in them is the way they vibrate into stars, planets, all the rest of it. What are they? Elements, concepts, forms, everything. All vibrating patterns of energy made up, all appearing in that basic screen which everything appears on. Is emptiness, silence, stillness. But that stillness is full of that life, intelligence, energy, and we call it awareness. But you can't say what awareness is. You can't give it any shape or any form. But each one of us knows we're not unaware right now. So, and in that awareness, consciousness forms on that, or in the awareness. Consciousness starts to discriminate and recognise things. And to make that discrimination real for us, we've got to put labels on it to seemingly divide it. because everything is seen, heard, felt, tasted, just as it is. What is means unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. But we learn the words and discriminating with the words. But look at the word. Is the word the real? Is the word the thing? Take the word water. Can you drink it? Can you swim in it? Can you wash in it? Will you drown in it? You can't. The word fire. Can you cook with it? Can you heat yourself with it? Does it burn you out? So we learnt words like I or me, which brings about the idea we are this separate entity, this individual. There are words we put on separate entity, individual, person. And where did that word person come from? Come from another language, persona, who were aptly describing it then as a mask. We've got a mask of concepts we put upon ourselves, which was never so. But we've taken it to be so and believed it to be so. And that analogy again in the Bible, Adam and Eve, or in the Garden of Eden, or paradise. And they ate of the tree of knowledge, of good and evil. And that's all this knowledge or intelligence is, the knowledge, good and evil. And it vibrates dualistically. As you say, in the good and evil, it wasn't just good and evil, it was past, future, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, loving, hating. And to be discriminated, you have to put words on it. So every word we've ever spoken has been picked up along the way or acquired. Look at animals and birds. They're not speaking words, but they have sounds. Sounds which can be recognised from one animal to the other. The cat sound can be a sound. There's food here. Another sound can be there's danger here. Another sound can be the urge to mate comes upon them and they start singing out and looking for a mate. About the natural functioning of the intelligence. But they haven't developed into words, so they haven't got the capacity of reasoning to the same extent that these human forms have. They have a capacity of reasoning that's much more developed than the other animals, birds, insects, where the other animal, birds, insects have different capacities. And some of the capacities they have apart from the thinking are more developed than what we have. Like a bird has better eyesight than what you or I or any of the human patterns will ever have. And it can fly. We can't do that. Yet through the capacity of reasoning, we've gone beyond the ordinary flying. We've learned to build ourselves glasses, binoculars and telescopes, which enable us to see better. And helicopters, planes, balloons, and that's what enable us to fly. So that capacity has diminished in some way where we can't actually do the things that the bird can do. We can do a lot of other things the bird will never likely be able to do. A dog has a sense of smell. Sniffer dogs and things like that. It's much more developed than the human form is. Chameleons have can change colour. We can't do that. And all other different ways. Ordinary grubs or caterpillars, you have to allow grubs eating their food and then they'll form a cocoon, implying that capacity of intelligence is there to form a cocoon. And the grub locks itself in the cocoon, and what happens after a while it will hatch. And it's changed from being an ordinary grub, now it's a beautiful caterpillar or a nice moth or something else, implying there is an innate intelligence running through it all. And in these humans it's more developed. The capacity of reasoning is more developed. And that's why we take on the idea that we're superior to a lot of things. And there are lesser things to us. And then we put on that idea of superior, there'll always be something better. So we've got this concept of God, which is superior to us. And we bow down to it and kowtow to it. You know, pray to it and do things that's going to make us right, to make us good. Not realising that we are that one essence already, one life. We've lost sight of the fact. We never looked into the fact in the first place. When you look into it, investigate, and recognise that everything is that. And that's the great mantra that a lot of the scriptures will talk about. I am that. I am that I am. And that I am is a sense of presence that translates as a thought. I am. Thought or word. I am is the sense of presence. But we've taken to be the person, this body, mind. And so when the Sagata says, stay in the I amness, people think he means we've got to repeat this I am, reflect on it, make it used as a mantra, and mouth it all the time, but it's not that. It's the sense of presence he's talking about. He says, stay with that sense of presence, the life essence, the knowing that you are, that which you can't negate, the sat, the existence, the consciousness, and the loving to be. Anyone who is not existing right now, no, you say, I'm existing. Are you unconscious? No, I'm conscious. Are you happy to be? Yes, you're happy to be. So you already are that. And the other two factors, Sat Chitananda, Nama Rupa. The Nama is the name we put up ourselves. I'm Bob, the Australian, instead of saying I am the Absolute. The good fella or not so good. And all the other concepts I've added to it, which cause this miserable little human entity, instead of being the totality. And we've enclosed ourselves in the cocoon like the grub or the moth of concepts. Until you break out of that cocoon, all the beautiful capacity of loving, reasoning and enjoying life, you'll be bound up in those conceptual images, the fear, the anger, the depression, the guilt, the psychological suffering. And it doesn't have to be that way. You see, when you break it down, you call this God, if you believe in a God, the Supreme Being, a being greater than you or I or everything else. And we call ourselves a human being. And then when you put that on ourselves when things have been going, well, after all, I'm only human. How could I do any better? But what happened if you took that term human away and you took the term supreme away and then tried to separate the beingness? Instead of being a human being, a supreme being, just be the pure being. And you realise that everything around you is that pure being. The chair you're sitting on is being a chair. The room you're in is being a room. The tree outside is being a tree. The flowers being a flower. And all the other human shapes and forms, the animals and birds are all being. And being is not becoming. Becoming implies a future time. And that's another thing we have to look at and see if there is such a thing as time. Because that's what needs to happen. We need to investigate the truth. They say, know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And it won't be free. You won't be free until you know it or recognise it. And the Buddha called it a cognising emptiness. It's all this manifestation is empty of any of these concepts or words or concepts or ideas. But we think we need to cognise this emptiness. Cognising is just another term for knowing. So it's a knowing emptiness. But he doesn't know we need to know it. It's the emptiness of self that's knowing or awareing or existing or being. And it needs patterns to express through, shapes and forms to express through. So it does all this manifestation and nothing pattern, shapes and forms in that one reality. And you're told that in a lot of the scriptures, where it tells you, be still and know that I am is God. It's a basic screen they're pointing to, the stillness and the being that's expressing through that stillness and as the stillness, and it's expressing through, as this body. You're being a human, and that chair is being a chair, and the cat's being a cat, everything is that being. So you cancel out that supreme and the human being, try and separate the beingness. And that being is knowing, because aren't you knowing right now? You're not unaware, you're not unconscious, so you must be aware, you must be conscious. And how would you express that? I know. I know. But when you think, I know, what have we done? We've alluded to this believed in separate entity. Believe that's knowing. But it's not. It doesn't know. It's the pure essence of knowing, the pure essence of knowing. But we've got this human form which we've labelled as the I amness, instead of seeing it as totality. And now it's the I am, or the believed in me, that thinks it is the knowing. But it's not. There is knowing, just like there is a wearing and seeing. There is a knowing. We put the label I know on it. You formed a subject, a conceptual image, subject made up of thoughts, concept side. And you believe that subject is the seeing. And the object, I know, what is known becomes the object. I know this or I know that. And what is seen becomes the object. So the believed in seer, I see and I know, a believed in seer, it vibrates into the opposite, thinks it's seeing and hearing. But all there is seeing, because the thought I see cannot see. The thought I hear cannot hear. The thought I know is not the knowing. So all there is seeing, knowing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking. The ing on it is something that's going on right now. Because you're seeing right now, aren't you? And you're hearing right now, you're knowing right now. But we've taken it to believe it's me that's seeing, hearing. But when you look at it, can that thought, concept or idea, me or I, see? Can the thought I see actually see? Can the thought I hear actually hear? Can the thought I think, is that actually the thinking? The thought I experience, is that the experiencing? It's the ing, it is the real in all those things. The ing, something that is going, oning, writing in this minuting or momenting. But when we relate to the seer, the seen, the thinker and the thought, we've split it up. And you look out at this as manifestation, and what do you see? You'll label a lot of it, you see this, that and that, but isn't it all trees, flowers, earth, and isn't it all broken down into things? All seeming things. The tree is a thing. It can be broken down into wood, it can be broken down into that, into atoms, into seed, and the seed can be broken down back into the elements. Okay, everything can be broken down from how it appears into that no thing. But in the way it's expressing it, everything is things. And can something come from no thing? Because it's appearing on the vacant space, the sense vacant space, the emptiness, the cognising emptiness. So it's all appearing in that. So it's all no thing, so something cannot come from no thing. So we've taken the wrong stance. We believe it's all something. instead of it's all no thing, and we've moved away from it. We've separated ourselves as this personal self, this personal center, this me, and set ourselves up as an ego, a separate entity, an individual, a person. And that's where all the psychological suffering comes in. Because that sense of separation enables it all to happen. But if you are no thing and everything is no thing, it's all the one essence, from the so-called Supreme Being, the God, down to a clump of grass or the minutest microbe. If it's all the one essence, where's all the fears, angers and depressions and guilt and all going to lodge? If there's no thing to take delivery of them. When we call ourselves this person, this separate thing, and believe it to be real, not realizing it is no thing, but it is a form of that intelligence energy, and the human form is a wondrous expression of that intelligence energy, with the nerves, the sinews, the blood and everything else, just the same as every other thing in this manifestation. It's an amazing and wondrous patterning, shape and form. Pointing out that this, what I call intelligence energy, the actuality, is really great, amazing. It is full of the beingness, knowingness and loving to be. It is that very joyousness and lovingness of that being. And you are that. You are always and ever and will be that. How did you come about if you think you're a separate entity and individual? You'll say, I was born, you can't remember your birth. So when you think you are this person, investigate. That's the thing we point out to have a look. These things that I'm trying to point to, whether it's successful or not, who cares? Trying to get you to have a look for yourself, because as I say, I can't teach you anything, I can't tell you anything. All I can do is point and ask you to look to where I'm pointing to. Why can't I teach you and tell you anything? Because I am a thing. And can one which is no thing, and can one thing which is no thing tell any other thing which is no thing anything at all? It can't. So each pattern, shape and form, all of those things which are the reality were not being cognised or recognised as such, and coming from this idea of being a thing, get locked in that belief and pattern, and so they don't recognise or know them true self. But in getting glimpses of it here and there, you've had tastes of it all through your life, when the thoughts and feels have fallen away and left you in that state of not a state, in that pure awareness, with the joyness flowing out of it and coming to me, or in insights. And then it's become, because it's reinforced constantly every day in our whole thing, in our schools, parents and everybody else reinforce it, it's easy to drop back into it. And after a few years we've been habitually reinforcing ourselves. So you might have had the habit of smoking or drinking or some other habit, and it's very hard to drop off it if it's going on there. So the same with this. Very hard to drop away from them and look a little bit further and to see for yourself that there's no thinker thinking a thought here. There's thinking happening. There's no seer seeing a sight. There's no hearer hearing the sounds. There's no taster tasting all the goodies that come into our mouth, the food and everything else. But it's going on, the functioning is going on. It uses a pattern to express through. And this pattern is suffused with all those capacities of tasting, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling and thinking, and using words to express them. Trying to point to others how it is. And so that's what happens. The others which are no thing, Everything is that no thing appearing. So in its unique expressions of each pattern, shape and form being a unique expression, each one come to its own understanding and recognition, and it can be pointed, and others will pick it up and so on, and that's how everything is evolving. Not only through these patterns, but the whole manifestation is constantly changing and constantly evolving. Not old Big Daddy up there in the sky, if you pray to him, he's going to grant you this. And, wave a magic wand or hit you on the head with a mantra or something like that, going to make it. It's that pure intelligence that's fusing it all, and it takes it. It's transient, and it's doing it constantly, ever changing, patterning, shaping and forming. There's nothing static in it. It's all a constant vibration or movement. And look how things are changing on this planet right now, with this virus that's going around, causing a bit of a problem, locking everybody down. But it's not the first virus or plague or ice age or tsunami or whatever, the flood or whatever that's happened. It's constantly coming and going and changing. The seasons are coming and going, the tides coming and out. Everything is transient. And that body that you walked into the room with is changing right now. There are thousands of cells dying, not just one or two, but thousands of them. And each cell is suffused with that innate intelligence. It knows what to do, because it doesn't. The next cell is being replaced. If it's a back heart cell, it's not being replaced by a liver cell or a skin cell. So the cells themselves are suffused with intelligence. Just the same as when you began. When did you begin? You'll say, I was born, but you can't remember your birth. How did you begin? And the essence of the food eaten by your father was suffused with that life essence. And the prana of the breath suffused with that life essence. Enabled in that pattern through the prana, or the chi, the prana and the breathing, enabled in that pattern a little embryo, a little sperm to form, I should say. And that sperm was suffused with intelligence. It knew what to do. The same with the mother, that through the food, and then they enabled in that pattern a little ovum to form, an egg. And that ovum knew what to do. It attached itself to the wall of the uterus. And the sperm knew what to do. It swam to the ovum. So again, proving it's suffused with intelligence. And it's penetrated the ovum. And those two, the intelligence in those two, coming together, double that cell, redouble it, and form the little embryo, the little fetus, which is what you are today. And it's grown, and not only the little embryo, it's grown from a little child. When you came out, were born, you had no words. So it's got the intelligence that's come about in it, and the innate intelligence is forming in it, because it formed a brain. That pattern formed a brain to express through, and the body with all its, all the organs and all the rest of it in it. And that enables that when no male and female to come together in a greater form like they do, they will form another little pattern, shape and form. So it goes on and on. So it breaks down into little pattern shapes and forms, and then goes into bigger shapes and forms and patterns, which again will break down into the minute. So life continues on life. The tree, which is wood, came from a little seed, which gets its nourishment from the earth and grows. And then there's potential in that seed to cover the earth in trees. And that sperm, potential in the sperm and the ovum when they're released, and to bring out forth nations, myriads of children, yeah. But not all of them come to life at once. So it's very prolific in in making of these things, and not all of them survive. But there's nothing wasted, all utilised. So that's what we need to realise, that we are this one essence. The psychological suffering is the problem.
Speak up.
Psychological problem is the problem. Because it's only me that can be fearful, only me that can be unhappy. Me can be sad, me can be depressed. Me is the cause of all that suffering, the belief in a separate entity. Instead of being still and knowing that I am God, or recognising that I am the pure intelligence energy, or I am the uncontrived singularity, or I am purely and simply that, one essence. We put all these concepts and ideas on it and get lost in the pattern, shapes and forms, which are very useful, but they're self-destructive. So in looking for it, first get the taste of it, recognise it. Once you can come, rest in it, in its uncontrived singularity. They call it, for want of better terms, enlightenment or realisation. And we think we've got to become something or acquire something, become this thing of enlightenment. But break it down into what it means, enlighten. When we're in this conceptual image, we're burdened with the concepts, with the thoughts, with the ego, with the suffering. To be free of that would enlighten you, take the load off you. It's not something you've got to recognise or realise or see, but it's just a matter of knowing the truth. It tells you in the scripture, know the truth and the truth will set you free. So knowing that or recognising, and what's the truth you need to know? That you are not this person, you are not this body-mind, you're not this miserable human entity, you are the intelligence energy, you are that. Say that, realise that, recognise that, and let it rest in its uncontrived singularity, and see what happens from there. So, got any questions, any doubts, any arguments? Bringing them up, let us know how you're going with it. Some of you can express it better than I can. But get it out there, where the whole world is at the moment is tied up in this idea of these separate entities with these viruses and things like that, and the wars, and all the fear and anger and the thing that's going on in the world, and unhappiness. When it can be free of all of that and live in joy, or in joyousness, not enjoy, in joyousness, or be the love that the life is. Life is love. Let it express as that. So, no questions?
Yes, they are. They are. Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to find whatever the telephone will randomly drop at me. We have the comment from Jane. You darling, darling, selfless man, Bob. Love you so much. Pure joy of being so lucky to have the privilege of seeing, hearing, knowing, loving your playful, brilliant presence for the past 32 years. I'm eternally grateful for your existence. 36 years, actually.
Thank you, Jane.
Yeah, gratitude is sweet like a nectar.
Somebody comes along the path and we start walking it together. That's what happens. The more we walk along it, the better it is.
So there is a comment from David. That's cool. Maybe we could say, This was when you were talking about steam, water, and ice, thought, feeling, and emotion, like steam, water, and ice. So David suggests thought would be steam,
Yeah.
emotion would be water, and matter or the world would be the ice. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's good enough and
Yeah.
close enough.
Yeah, emotion is a sensation when the
Yeah.
steam has become into the water, like it's
Yeah, I get where it comes from,
Yeah.
because you say steam would be the thought and the
Yeah.
water would be the feeling, and emotion is kind of more solid, it solidifies in
Yeah,
the body.
yes, yeah.
But a lot of different spiritual so-called paths take emotion. Even in astrology says the water symbolizes emotion, not the fleeting feeling, but the solid, like vibrating anger. But it's close enough. I mean, this is just an analogy. It could be
Yeah.
used as feeling and emotion. They often
Well,
undifferentiated.
well, emotion to me has come with a little bit emotion. Something's got emotion.
It's got,
The thought, the feeling.
Yeah, but you definitely can see it as the thought, emotion, and the world,
Yeah.
rather than thought, feeling, and emotion.
So it's still the one essence, though.
Totally. Yeah, it's just a nice illustration. Steam,
Well,
water, and ice. You can also have the illustration of Trinity in the Christianity. You have the God, the Son, and the
Yeah,
action of God,
that's
which is
right.
the Spirit. So that's
The three things.
yeah. Son is material. The action or the Holy Spirit, the activity is the water, and the thought is God, the consciousness.
Yeah,
Father.
Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, Holy Spirit.
Yeah. In other traditions we have more kind of a dualities, like we have duality, yin yang duality in Taoism, where yin is the active, I think, is white and active, and yang is passive and dark, and female is dark, and so on. But in the shamanism you have it opposite. You have the consciousness is static, the father, the sky is static. In Taoism, the male is active. Here, the male is passive, is
Shiva
static.
Shakti.
Yeah, Shiva Shakti the same. You have in shamanism father sky, mother earth. So father sky is the pure consciousness, emptiness. Mother earth is the appearance, the forms. Shiva is a father sky, would be equivalent, and the Shakti is female. Every form is female, even a male body is female in that analogy, because it is a form. Form is active, is changing, is transient. So they are beautiful, beautiful illustrations, and the really, really fortunate aspect of them all is that in many, many ways they self-contradictory, because they don't tell you how things are. They only tell you how they appear. So how things are, non-conceptually, but how they appear, yin-yang, black and white, or Father Sky, Mother Earth, Shiva Shakti, or the Trinities, the omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience, or God, Father, and Ghost, or steam, water, and ice.
We move away from its singular simplicity and are putting all sorts of concepts on it.
And I think the most brilliant way to explain how the singularity comes into the duality or the Trinity is your way of showing how the pure thinking or the pure seeing is divided into the thinker and the thought, a seer and a seen. So we have the seer and the seen, the object or subject looking and the object being seen. This is the duality. But it wouldn't be there if not for the seeing. So now we have the Trinity collapsing into the singularity. It's just so practical. So suddenly all the symbols in all the religions become so transparent and so simple. The division always comes from the concepts, putting labels on things, and then suddenly one single functioning or activity or existence is being divided. Without the thought, you can't divide yourself from the world, you cannot select your body from the environment. With the thought you still can't, but you can believe you do. Because the body is constantly in communication, in exchange. But yes, that was David. Now we have a lot of beautiful good morning messages and love messages. Now we have Amarnath. Still, words help as pointers towards self, like thorn used to take out the thorn.
Yeah.
Same with self-inquiry part of mind, helping the mind to say, I am not the thing. Bob, you always said you are already that. No need to do who am I creation of separation.
Yes, well, have a look at that. Who am I? What is it? It's a question, isn't it? If you ask yourself, who am I, you're asking yourself a question.
Yeah.
Now, if you ask, who am I, who's asking this, and you'll see, I am. I am the questioner. And the questioner is just words, the same as the question.
Yes.
So they're only concepts, they cancel each other out. Do you need to look any more?
How brilliant. This is again coming back to the collapsing of the duality and the Trinity. So the question comes, who am I? Who is asking that? The question and the questioner are one, they're not two. So now, who wants to know? There's no one there. If the questioner collapses, the question collapses with it.
See, people don't see that. They get to who am I, and start repeating it and looking for who am I, and never find it. Just as they say, as the Sargadatta says, stay with the I amness. And people thought they've got to stay with I am. But what that I am represent?
Yeah.
It's the sense of presence, the knowing that you are. How would somebody ask you who are you? You'll say, I am Bob, or I am so-and-so. It's the sense of presence that translates. But stay with that I amness is the sense of presence. And can you ever be away from presence? Presence is immediate and always now. It's always transient, so you're home already. Which when they tell you it's one without a second, they're telling you that in so many different ways, but we've lost sight of it and need to come back and recognise. Not as a matter of coming back because it's still present, but to recognise that I'm not the concepts that are seemingly looking to get something. I am that already, which is. Can't say I am not, so I must be.
And only labels limit you to the idea of being a body, or being inside the body, or being inside the head, or being a concept. That's So there is another one from Amarnath. Though there is a potential of self-realization in all human beings, though only oneself is there, but why is not happening? Ramana says everyone is already enlightened, but only notion of bondage or not enlightened.
Yeah. As I say, instead of recognising I am that, then we take it I am the person.
Yeah.
And not realising that there's no such thing as a person, it's only a mask of concepts. It's not what you actually are. So while you're going from that point of view, you've got to try and find out what this person is before you can even look for the reality. But seeing this person and it's only a mask of concepts, now everybody will have a concept about you. You go into a room and you'll form a concept about everybody in that room.
Yeah.
It's very subtle, but it'll be a concept. And you'll have a concept about yourself. Now what's a concept? It's nothing but a mental construct. What's a mental construct? Mental is a sound or thought, subtle thought, when it's before it's sound. Thought's a vibration, and a vibration is a movement of energy. So all it's going is vibrating energy. Vibrating as this body, as this mind, as everything out there in the manifestation. But we've taken it to be the persona, the person.
Yeah. Projections, concepts, overlay of ideas.
Now then, that's what we try to do then. If we do this mantra or meditate, we'll get rid of this person.
Yeah.
Get rid of the me or the I. But see right now, right in this immediacy right here and now, it's only a mask, a conceptual image.
Yeah.
And if ask yourself what's wrong with right now if I don't think about it, you need to pause the thought in this moment or step over the thought or let rid of it immediately. And what can you say without a thought? You can't say anything at all without a thought. But have a look. If you stop seeing, if you stopped hearing, stopped tasting, touching, smelling or breathing, the functioning is going on. but we're not encapsulated in any concepts or any thoughts. But you're knowing, in the seeing, there's an immediate knowing. I'm looking at this wall now, there are pictures on the wall, and I don't have to say there's pictures on the wall and what they are, but I know they're not the wall.
Mm.
The discrimination is there immediately. I know there are lights on the floor and lights in the ceiling, furniture on here, and seeing everything. Look out the window, there's cars going by. There's the knowing without having to say there's cars going by. You see it's registered or resonated within them. It's all spontaneously happening. So when we don't have to get rid of this me, you see it's not there, where must you be functioning from? Must be functioning from that which you really are, the absolute. And you can't take anything away from the absolute, and you can't take anything else to it. So even though the discrimination is going on, that discrimination is still the absolute. But we're not recognising it, we're recognising it as other. Be what you are. Not what you think you are. Not what you believe yourself to be. Be as you are. That are is an isness or I amness, a sense of presence, an awareness. It's yours, it's easy.
Yeah, I remember there was a quote, I think, in Zen, similar to the one that you say, Amarnath, about Ramana. Oh, everyone's already enlightened, but the notion of bondage is... there is a quote that the only difference between enlightened and unenlightened is that unenlightened thinks there is a difference.
Mm.
Because so-called enlightened knows that everything is that. And unenlightened thinks you gotta achieve something or become something because there is a you.
I should describe it there, the notion
Yes.
of enlightenment. Now, what's the notion?
Yeah.
An idea.
Yeah.
We've got this idea we're opposed.
Mm.
And if we investigate the idea,
Yes.
it's just something belonging to the idea.
And then enlightened, like you said before, you know, we have that burden of self, carry that heavy load of guilt, shame, inadequacy and incompleteness, which are all mental images, concepts and memories. And we put that heavy weight on us. And that's a darkness too, because that's pain. That's really, really heavy, sort of unconscious, bring that all thing to light. Not only it will evaporate as just mere ideas, but also that light will shine through it and see how transparent and ridiculous it is. And then the end darkness and heaviness will become enlightenment.
Yeah, there's a book, one of the Dog Shen text, I think it is, called, the title of it is Self-Realisation Through Seeing with Naked Awareness.
Mm.
Now have a look at that title, it's all there in the title. A naked awareness, that's a non-conceptual, a bare awareness, it's not bound down by any concepts. And in the description inside it's got some call up this and go into an elaborate description of this, what awareness might be. Another one, a different version of what elaborateness might be. This elaborate 8 on this, what awareness might be.
Mm-hmm.
About 4 or 5 or 6 different versions of what it is. And the bottom one says, some call it ordinary awareness. That's really, this ordinary, everyday, garden variety, presence awareness, right here, right now. You are that.
Yeah, you're not unaware. So that ordinary awareness is there. Yeah, and naked, without any filters. Filters of beliefs, filters of concepts, filters of personality, filters of life view, worldview, meanings, goals, all that filters where the life is related to me, and that me puts it kind of puts the colors over everything it sees, because it has the order of values. This is bigger, this is better, this I like, this I don't. This is what makes that naked awareness completely covered with clouds of...
That's sort of the same as what's wrong with right now if you don't think about it. Really, not thinking about it, you get the glimpse of what it is. You know, you can say Can't say there's anything right or wrong about it, good or bad about it, but you haven't stopped seeing or breathing. And then people say, oh, my conditioning is such and such. Well, apply the same thing to that. Tell me what's wrong with, what conditioning is there right now if you don't think about it?
Yeah.
It's disappeared, there's nothing there. But you haven't disappeared. The intelligence energy hasn't disappeared, the concepts will go. And again, the Buddhists put it in another one, they call it the great perfection, which is the same as the absolute. Perfection is the same as absolute. And they give it in one sentence there. The great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. Shakespeare tells us nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. If there's no thinking going on, it's neither good or bad, what must it be? Just as it is. The Sagata tells you nothing can trouble you except your own imagination. And break that word imagination down to imaging, or conceptualising, or thinking. It's all imagination, yeah? So it's simply there in all its, and let it rest in its uncontrived singularity. That's another good one. So you'll see it in all the great texts. You know, the way that can be spoken about is not the way, even in the Taoists. Whatever talk or thoughts or concepts we put on it, we've moved away from it. Full stop. Don't go there.
Yeah. Tanya, noticed a story come up yesterday. It hung around for a bit, went away, came back, but it is seen to be just words, seen to be false. The story has nothing to do with intelligence energy. Not taken on board, it soon moves on, and the story is seen to have no power or relevance. Thank you for pointing to this.
Beautiful. Thank you for recognising it.
Yes. Yeah, for some people it comes as a dialogue. For some people it comes as a set of images. For some people it is kind of like a emotion. But regardless, it is always a fleeting phenomena. It is always something that comes, hangs around and goes. And it's impersonal. It's just a pattern. I think we have Amarnath. Dear Bob, it has been said that even bird, cow, deer, snake and monkeys go into samadhi in front of Ramana Maharshi. Your thoughts on this?
No, I'm not Ramana Maharshi. It was like everything else, it was a unique expression, and each one expresses uniquely and sees things differently.
Yeah, and what is samadhi? Are they falling asleep or something? Or just kind of getting numb? Or
Mindless, being thought-free.
Yeah, so imagine the bird now kind of getting blank and not running away when the cat chases it. I'm not quite sure. The one thing is there is a lot of stories about all the sages and seers that come about, same as in the Bible, much after the sages were there. But there's also, of course, a possibility of this, how they call it, siddhi powers.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the creatures in the universe naturally have certain skills and talents, and some put their heart for years and years to develop those qualities, because the intelligence is, they have a calling for it. It's nothing good or bad. It's not necessary for anything. It's not a test or every pattern is unique. Whether certain quality, for example, beautiful singing or a cooking quality or putting birds in samadhi, whether this quality or other quality appears through the body, is still the same life that is behind it.
Exactly. Everything is everything is valid in the appearance, but the appearance itself is only appearance.
That's right.
So all these things are quite valid, but in the appearance, but in so break out of the appearance. What are they? When it all comes back, they all come back to the one essence when it's broken down. So they're always that anyway.
Yeah.
Appear to be changed, appear to be transient, just the same as right now. Everything is transient. We're taking this body to be the person or the pattern energy, but it's not the real thing. It's only it's a pattern. It's an appearance in the space like awareness. It's a phenomenal appearance.
Yeah.
So it's real as it appears, but not
Yeah.
in its actual.
Yes, I know what you say. Yeah, it's real in the essence,
Yeah.
but not as it appears.
Yeah.
So, but there's another one from Amarnath. And thank you, Amarnath, for giving us some food for contemplation. That's precious. More you try to be pious, more you will be betrayal. Nisargadatta Maharaj. Can you explain why? So,
What was it say?
more you try to be pious, more will be betrayal.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the very fact of trying leaves you open. Because, you've moved away from the essence yourself and trying, taking on some believed in personal power, but let it rest in its uncontrived singularity. Get yourself out of the road and less likely to be betrayed.
Yeah. Also, the more attention goes to one end of the stick, the more prominent the other end of the stick. That's kind of a rule, because it either appears dualistically or it doesn't appear at all. If the idea of pain, pleasure, or pious and betrayed is not in the picture, it is just as it is. But the more the trying to reach one end, to be a saint rather than sinner, the more the other end exists as the potentiality, as the opposite.
If you are the absolute who, and what can betray you?
Yeah.
Though it might appear to be so.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, the human figure may be experiencing a lot of things, but you are not the human figure. I mean, you are that as well. You are everything, including your oppressors, including those who nail you to the cross. Yes, say it.
Get the nail off the cross, we need the wood.
Now we have gauze. We are the universe in which the body rises. Beautiful.
Yeah, it was that.
Gauze Paul. And Amarnath says, investigation to lose the investigator. That's right. Yeah. Lose the Trinity, the object, the subject of investigation, the object of investigation. They all investigating.
Investigating, yeah.
And now, Amarnath, vibration and pattern are happening in moving I am, but I is stable and still.
Yep.
Yeah, beautiful. Kindly explain the difference between I am and I.
Well, I, on its own, what's it referring to?
Pure existence.
Pure existence.
Yeah, you can actually
I am.
argue whether there is a difference.
Yeah, I am in itself. There's not anything else onto it. It's just a pure knowing and being.
Yeah, and I am also. It's an interesting idea to distinguish I and I am, because I would be static and I am would be moving, would be emotion. The existence would be the moving element in the basic screen. But ultimately nothing is to be separated.
I is and you're right, it's a symbol of the figure one, isn't it, really?
It is, yeah.
Symbol of the figure one, and the am is part of the verb to be.
That's right.
It's putting to one being.
Yes. Yes, so being is an activity, subtle activity, existence, and I is kind of background for it. But yeah, you can always argue whether there is a distinction, because all distinctions are conceptual. They are introduced to explain some aspects of the concept, but they're still concept, because ultimately, if there is no words in the unborn Buddha mind, there is no distinction between anything. But yeah, it's a nice one. And now we have Amarnath again. Thank you. Samadhi is stillness of mind, inactivity of mind, or awareness of awareness. I see. Okay, I wasn't sure what the idea of birds and deers going in a kind of numbness. Yeah, okay, stillness of the mind. Yeah, I could say then if there is a stillness of the mind, I did not actually notice, and science didn't also notice the neural pathways in the brain of any animals having the language network and the narrative self. So from that standpoint, every animal is in samadhi all of the time because they don't have narrative, so they all have a still mind. The mind is still. I'll see if we have another one on a different screen. Newest. Being this one. Nope. The newest are showing the oldest. And now we try the most relevant. Yes, that is a nice one here, Amarnath. You're great, Bob, to making me simple and naked. I came to know I am already naked and simple. Beautiful.
Good.
Yes. Thanks, Kat, for your parable of bird carrying burden of incompleteness or deficiency. That's, yeah. Atul. The one who starts the inquiry will not finish the inquiry. He will be finished by the inquiry. Moji. Beautiful. That's it. What is, Chris Caldwell, what is the Buddhist idea of clear mind?
Clear mind or pure mind. That's what they call the unborn mind, a mind with no thoughts.
Yes.
Pure mind, clear mind. Thoughts come upon it. That's what Bhanghi, the Zen Buddhist, is. Everything is perfectly resolved in the unborn Buddha mind. That's the pure mind. Why exchange the unborn for thought?
Yeah.
And leave it at its pureness. It's not going to. But when we see what we do, we can constantly dividing it and conceptualizing and all sorts of concepts and thoughts all the time, never stop. And they haven't hurt the clarity or the emptiness that's appearing on. The screen is not touched by it, but the clouds seemingly obscure the thinking. That's what happens when we're obscured. When our essence, the pure awareness or the unborn mind, is obscured by thoughts, that's when the feelings, emotions and all the rest would come upon it. Resting its uncontrived singularity, let the thoughts be as they are, they're not going to be a problem. They'll just move along. Because there's no thoughts stitched in your head anywhere.
Yeah.
But we keep them there. They don't have to. Let them ride out with the breath.
I remember that one-liner from the beautiful song that John Wheeler wrote about this third patriarch.
Yeah.
How would I know the mind is intrinsically pure? It is already pure.
Yeah.
It is. The mind is the way, especially that was a Zen patriarch, the mind is always, it is the totality. They call it mind, is pure. What seemed to be an impurity in the mind is like a wave showing on the ocean. They are not.
Another thing in that song, it was a beautiful song that John wrote. He says, and we heard the bloke speaking in the marketplace. He said he heard about a mind that lights upon no thing.
Yeah.
Not taken on board. The mind is It is pure and fresh and free if it's not alighting or unfixated awareness.
Gosh, I wish I remembered more of this one. I think he was Buddha mind is a light of my own mind.
Yeah.
He was saying, who would have known?
Buddha is the light of
My own mind. So it is actually everything is an onboard Buddha mind, and whatever shows and goes on it doesn't obscure it. It doesn't touch it. It's like the cloud doesn't touch the sky because there is no sky. Sky is an emptiness. Sky is just a vast open space in every direction, infinitely vast. And then there is some little tiny planet with few clouds running around the atmosphere. Like, how does it touch the sky? The emptiness. It doesn't. Thoughts don't touch the true nature of the emptiness. So the mind is already pure and it is already clean. Already, that's the key word. You are already that. See what obscures it. It will be a thought, an idea, a feeling, something that comes and goes, something that is transient. It's not always there, so who cares? If it's shown up, it will go. Just not even paying attention to it is the easiest thing. I'll have a check on the phone. There may be more. Yeah, we have few more which I don't get on the... Okay, so I'm gonna read it from here. I watched a question arise and then subsides. That's Nick Silk. Thanks, Bob. Watching question arise and subside.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Who is that one?
That's Nick.
Nick?
And Tanya, real as in its essence, but not as it appears.
Yeah.
Because it is only intelligence energy and is not separate. Nothing is really solid that is seen. Can you say more about this?
You just described it. What more can you say?
Nothing is really solid. I mean, I can add to it that the solidity of things, that what is real is that which never changes. And show me one thing that never changes. It always changes, even if it takes million years, it will change. So things, the objects, they have beginning and an end. So they're not real, they're transient. And also we know from science that they actually already pure field of potentiality, the very fast movement of energy that creates the matter, the E equals mc square, the famous Einsteinian equation on equality of energy and matter. So they're all energy. When you put the microscope to anything, to a skin cell, you will see that this is mostly empty space. Every atom is mostly empty space with a piece of information, because electron doesn't have any weight, so running around it. That's another way to look at it. But you don't really have to know the science to see the transience of things. Even if you don't see the transience of all things, it is enough to see how the things disappear from your field of attention when you close your eyes. Where are they? It's the direct experience that's always the best and the easiest to relate to if you want the ultimate truth. But it's a good point. And now we have Atul says, in joy, when you said inner joy. External effortless joy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, that's a beautiful dance around the concept. Thank you. And Amarnath, great, Bob. Thanks. We can't describe, or no difference between I is absolute and I am is dynamic consciousness. Yeah, good point. You remember that question of...
Yeah.
Yes. And Thanks, Kat. There is only purity. Actually, impurities never existed in the mind world, but appears to be so. Yeah, precisely so. Atul, pure mind is no mind. It's just consciousness.
Yeah.
And now, Atul, solidity is just an appearance. It is just superimposed on the screen of consciousness.
Yeah.
Yes. Amarnath, replying to Tanya, like in dream, all appear solid, but actually they were impressions or thoughts only. World is only thought. Scientists can create solidity, heals Earth by artificial simulation without any reality. Yeah, that's a good point. And Mukti, can you please speak of the denial or suppression of human experience versus not withdrawing attention from thoughts and feelings? The question from Mukti, can you speak of denial or suppression of human experience versus not withdrawing attention from thoughts and feelings?
Trying to deny anything, that's not going to get you out of it, is it? Because what's denying it? The believed in entity
Yes.
is in denial all the time.
Yes, Mukti corrected herself. She meant versus withdrawing attention. I mean, the difference between being in denial, pretending something didn't happen, versus holding space for it, not giving it attention, but not denying it.
Well, let it be. It's not a matter of withdrawing it or anything like that. It'll go by itself.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is, I think, is a really good point. And yeah, thank you, Mukti, for bringing it in, because that I very, very often hear from people the concept of spiritual bypassing. That you are supposed to doing work on yourself and digging in the past and this sort of thing. And the other opposite is just pretend nothing happened. Just pretend, be in complete denial. They are both two ends of the stick. They are both very, very high involvement of the personal self, the self-center in the center, and strategies to deal with that self-center in the center. Whilst holding space for whatever shows up, it completely doesn't need the self-center. The life is accepted as it comes. Feeling come, uncomfortable feeling, perhaps even from the past, it comes up. Yeah, okay, it came up. Who cares? It's not personal, so you don't really have to dig into it, identify with it, fix it, or cure it, or do anything about it. It's just part of the passing phenomena. Give it as much attention as you give to the passing traffic. You know, you don't want the traffic to kill you, but you don't really want to go chase the tram and analyze it and do anything about it. So it's a beautiful and crucial distinction to actually, for people to engage with whatever shows up only to the extent that it is necessary for the survival and no more. Like, rather than denying something to happen or brooding in something that happened, the attention is healthily divided between seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, and not exclusively focused on avoidance or desire to engage.
Well, leave it as it is.
Yeah, the easiest way. Yeah, leave it as it is.
It'll right itself.
And now, and we have it. Tanya, thank you, Bob and Kat, for expanding on what I commented. Resonated a lot. Looking at actual experience really is obvious. And now, Megan, nothing ever happened. Full stop.
Who's that?
Megan.
Megan.
Yes. And Jane, see everything as an opportunity to watch and ask her what's happening to. Who is it happening to, I mean, she says. An ego is happening to, Megan says. Me too. Amarnath, replying to Mukti, Manolaya versus Manonasha, subsiding versus annihilation of mind. That's great. Thanks for this. And Jessie, can you speak about memories? What are they really? What are the memories?
It's the so-called past being brought into the present.
Yeah, I would say memories are impressions. Impressions.
Yeah.
Recorded somewhere because of the reasoning capacity and recording capacity.
And if they're not recalled, there's no memory. Yeah.
That's right. And Julia, what do you mean by holding space?
Who's holding space?
Yes, I use that term. I'll tell you, Julia, what I mean by that. I mean, if you are the space, what is space doing? The holding space is really doing nothing. It's really just being present with whatever shows up. Holding space is non-action. It's maybe it's an unfortunate set of words because, well, English is my second language. It's probably a translation or something, but that's what I mean. Just be as the space, which means be unconditionally accepting of everything that comes on, because being space is being nothing. If you are nothing, you can't have the nothing doesn't have opinion or preference or it just is. It even is not. I mean, whether it is or it isn't is equally inadequate to say. That's what I mean. I guess. Yeah, you just have to feel it. I can't really explain it any better at the moment. I'll think of explaining it better at some point. And now Julia also says, leave it as it is holding space. Yep, leave it as it is. Don't even be there for it. Or let it be, as the Beatles song say. That's right. Yeah, you got it. Amarnath replying to Jessie, identification of separate consciousness, time, place, person. It might help in survival of life. Yeah, good point. Yes, that was regarding the memories. What are the memories and what the function of it? Yeah, so is that what, Bob, you started on the spiel on the beginning, the brilliant reasoning capacity, which even though we have no capacity of flying like birds, we can build different things. That also because of the memory, because the learning capacity is closely associated with being able to draw onto the previous experiences. And learning capacity every creature has, but the memory, which is so is just so much more extensive because of the symbolic language, because we have symbols in which we can code it. It totally not only ensure the survival, see how we dominated the planet. I mean, the bacteria are still probably a bit better, but we're not far behind. And it may be self-destructive. See how long is that planet going to hold us if we behave the way we do. And again, we don't do what the life does. See if there is more. Oh, we have another one. We have Bill. Is there a line between the seeing and the narrative? Or maybe a border sign that declares you are now entering seeing territory, one expressing as everything.
Can't be divided, so how can there be any line?
That's beautiful, yes. Yeah, good one. And now we have John David. Kat, your English is superior. Oh, thank you, John. Oh, you're so great friend to us all, and arrow that eternally travels home. Thank you. Bob, as always, you are the light. Love you. We love you, John. Atul, when desire is no longer there, you are happy. When desire has ceased to exist completely, you are happy all the time. And this is liberation. Papaji. Yeah. And if you don't wanna wait till the desire goes away, if you don't wanna wait for the liberation to happen in future, recognize that even if desire does come up, it is just a mechanical pattern. It's not yours, so you are already free right now. If you see desire coming and going, it's not yours, it's not personal, you are free already. That's the liberation. Desires may be fleeting phenomena which don't really, don't identify you or grab you or get some desire for lunch. You have some desire for lunch.
Shortly, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a nice pointer. I always kind of try to bring it back to the now rather than future when something happens, because there is no future. There is no division. And now there is no more. Yeah, and there is almost time. What is Yeah, it's almost time and there is no more questions.
Yep.
Yeah, so thank you very, very much everyone for everything, for your input, and
Yeah, thank you all.
And yes, have a beautiful day or night wherever you are. We will too.
Bye. Love you.
Oh, thank you so much, Kat, Bob, and everyone. All is light. I am free. Love you so much. Yes, lots. And Dana says, what's the difference between the functioning and the awareness? Oh, we have a few more questions now. Atul, I am is the realization. To pursue the clue till realization is vichara, self-inquiry. Vichara and realization are the same. And Dana, what is the difference between functioning and the awareness? What's the difference?
Well, that is. It's being, it's knowing, it's nothing to be, isn't that functioning?
Yeah.
It's all movement.
It's all
activity.
That.
It's all that activity of knowing.
All that. Yes, and Nick Silk, moment to moment, step by step, I watch the unraveling movie of whatever might happen next on empty screen.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And now we got thank you messages and no more questions. So yes, thank you again everyone, and have a beautiful day or night or wherever, and see you next time.
Love you all.
Love you all.